Hi, this is Brian with Walnut Farm Bees, and I want to talk about lines of honeybees and genetics and tell you a little bit about an experiment that we're doing. We're always trying to improve, trying to find what we consider to be a better queen, a better line, tweak things that we wish we had or that we dislike. I would say right now we're at the point where we have the temperament, definitely calmness, captured, not overly aggressive. Our bees overwinter well and do not have to be excessively treated for mites. And of course, most of you probably know or remember that we use only organic mite treatments, not the synthetic chemical treatments. However, as we look at different characteristics, knowing that you can't have 100% in every category, when you select for one thing, you're probably giving up something else or having a little bit less of something else. So it's all about fine-tuning that dial to where you're comfortable with what you have. And one of the things that we wanted to look at more includes the idea of a bee that produces just a little bit more honey. Our bees by nature tend to be a little bit more conservative. We'd like to tweak the dial a little bit in that direction. We're happy that we have low swarming tendency. So that's something we really don't want to give up. I want them to be manageable, not overly aggressive, overly spicy. That's not something that we're willing to give up. But we're also curious about the idea of less treatment for mites, or even in some cases no treatment for mites. So ultimately, we want to have honeybees that are easy to work, not overly aggressive. They produce a good amount of honey, not too conservative, don't excessively swarm, and are hygienic. In other words, mite and disease tolerant. So this small experiment is for us to get some additional insight on some of the popular lines of honeybees that might meet our requirements. And these are lines that are considered to be a little bit more mite tolerant or even mite resistant. We've worked with some similar lines for quite a while, for a number of years, but with the exception of our breeder queens, we haven't reached the point where we thought no treatment was needed. We tried it out with a batch of overwintered nukes last year and lost about 30% of that sample, which for many might say, well, that's a good result, but it wasn't a result that we were happy with, especially for our overwintered nukes. So this year, what we're doing is we're taking a small sample of colonies, in other words, 20 colonies, and we're going to do 5 different groups. So it's a very small sample, only 4 from each line. So 4 from 4 lines, and the 5th group is a control from a commercial line that does not claim to be mite resistant. So these were all established in June in nukes with mite counts of 0 to start, and then we are going to continue monitoring the mite counts in late August, mid-September, and early October. We're going to stop the trial on any colonies that exceed 3% in August, September, or October. And by 3%, I mean when we do a sample in a mite wash, if we have more than 9 mites in that sample, we will pull that colony out of the trial and treat it for varroa mites before it becomes any worse and affects other bees. Because our focus is on temperament and productivity, any colonies that become excessively aggressive or spicy will be noted for replacement in early spring of 25. The nutrition and colony setup is identical. They're going to have 2 brood chambers, a deep and a medium 8-frame box with a solid bottom board. And they're going to be fed equally through mid-fall if there's local forage that's not adequate. So in other words, we're going to make sure they have equal amounts of food, plenty of food, things that they need nutrition-wise to get through winter. The location's all going to be the same for this sample, northern Pennsylvania. The control colonies, those 4, are going to be used only for fall of 24, just to make sure, since we started fairly recently in June, that we're being fair in this small trial. And as soon as they exceed the thresholds, they will be treated. So here are the lines that we're using, and by the way, I know there's going to be probably some thoughts, opinions, and discussion on, why did you use or why didn't you use a particular line, but we chose for our 4 lines, we chose the Golden West line from Oliveras. In other words, if you're familiar with Randy Oliver, this is his genetics. We chose also the Harbo Bee Company line, which are non-treated genetics and claim to be varroa resistant. The Purdue Mite Biter line. Yes, we're aware this is more of a leg chewing trait and not necessarily the same as VSH or SMR, which is suppressing the reproduction. And then the 4th line is the Pol-line 2.2, which has been, the Pol-line's been around for a little while, but this is the latest version of the Pol-line, which is supposed to be more mite tolerant. We know that these are not the only sources, and that there are other lines that are claiming to be mite tolerant or mite resistant in individual beekeepers who may have genetics that meet those needs. But we chose these 4 to start for certain reasons. Again, we're going based on the things that we like, and I know that there are others. Maybe if this does not work out, we'll add some of those others in the future, but for now, whether it be temperament, honey production, we left some out and we've chosen these lines. So I know that these by no means are all of the options that are out there. So for this first year, year 1, the colonies were established in nukes in June. Now they're up to a full deep box. They have the second medium brood box on all of them right now. In June, they were leveled to 0 for their mite counts with oxalic acid. They're fed from mid-July until early August. We're going to do what's called a UBeeO test on each, which is supposed to be looking at a kind of a hygienic test of bees, and the jury is still out on how consistent and effective this method is, but we'll do them on all 20 of the colonies and report the results. We're going to do mite counts on all of these colonies in late August, mid-September, and early October. And then, of course, see who makes it through the winter. In the second year, next year, what are we looking at? Winter survival. At least 2 out of the 4 colonies in each group must survive. As far as the spring mite counts, if 2 or more are over 3% in the spring, or the colony has dwindled down to nothing, like a frame of bees, they're automatically going to be removed. Gotta have sufficient bees to continue. As far as temperament, if in the spring rather than the fall they become excessively spicy, 2 or more of them, it's an automatic trigger for removal. Again, this is our preference. We're looking at swarming tendency. If 3 or more develop swarm cells when unnecessary and everyone else is not developing them, I'm not talking about poor management on our part, I'm just talking about just all of a sudden getting ready to swarm, that will be a trigger for removal. Also, for next year, since we're going to let them produce honey, they'll be all in the same location, so it will be equal as far as the opportunity. If 3 or more have a below average production of honey, that will be a trigger for removal. Now, the average apparently in Pennsylvania is about 30 pounds of honey per year that's taken off a colony, which I find to be very low, and it's certainly not our average. So, but I'm going to be generous and say, let's say we need to make 50 pounds of honey. These would be full-size colonies by spring. In May next year, we're going to do additional UBeeO tests on the overwinter colonies. We'll do mite counts next July and August, and we'll do Harbo tests in late August of next year. We are not doing them this year. They haven't had enough time to develop high levels of mites that we can adequately do that kind of assay. Any lines that we don't remove next year due to their performance, we will increase the sample size for another year. And then the idea behind this is continue to improve our line, or the lines that we use in our drone yards, and help us to think about what we're doing, trying to continue to be analytical and see what the possibilities are. I can tell you right now just early observations, and we will be showing you these colonies. We'll do some, as we do the tests on the colonies, we'll be showing you the strength and attitude and appearance of these colonies. Right now, across the board, there's no line that we would say, you know, let's remove them now. They're terrible, but so far as far as temperament, the only line we're watching right now are possibly the Harbo line, maybe the Purdue line. Seem a little more less gentle than the other two lines, but it's too early yet to tell. And as far as brood, as far as getting them going, up and laying initial brood patterns, actually early on the worst performer was the Oliver's Randy Oliver line, but again, too early to really conclusively tell as far as that goes. And so far, brood patterns building up. Pol-line seems to be doing exceptionally well. Harbo seems to be doing well in that regard. So we'll continue to post short videos as we take you on this journey. And again, this is not an all-inclusive, we're not studying every line of bee. And I know that some people object to the size of our sample, but this, you know, we didn't really want to take more than 20 colonies and not treat them. And this is what works for us. So we will keep you posted as we go on this journey.